Hello and welcome. My name is Paweł Piwosz and you are listening to Last Week in IT, the weekly podcast. Together with my fantastic co-hosts, Jakub Siwiecki and Jan Mazurek, we'll give you our perspectives on recent news, events, announcements and many more. And we do it in our own style. Join us and enjoy the show.
Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode, number 14 of our podcast, Last Week in IT. And if you remember our 13th episode, when we talked a bit about the IT employees as spoiled social group, I kind of thought after recording that episode, and one thought came to my head. We have a saying in Poland, ryba psuje się od głowy, which translates into that the fish gets spoiled from the head. And there is a difference in approach when it comes to being a leader or when it comes to being a manager. And today, I would like to talk a bit about the aspect of management in the IT world. Whether the quote that I provided, whether you find it that it's true, whether you find that example comes from the top, what's your experience actually, guys, when it comes to IT management and when it comes to dealing with the IT managers? Are you happy with the people whom you met on your path? Were the managers with whom you were working inspiring? Were you able to learn from them? Or maybe quite the opposite?
Well, let me give you the best answer from DevOps person. It depends. So from some, yes, from some, no. Some was very inspiring, some was definitely not. And even opposite, right? The thing here is that you mentioned leaders and you mentioned also managers, right? So the first thing which came to my head was that leader is not a manager or not have to be a manager, okay? Because leaders, and I'm not saying about leadership of the companies, things like that. No. I'm saying about leaders. This is completely different type. And very often I said that you become manager because someone promoted you from top, right? So some manager above you said you will be manager from today, but you become leader when your team promotes you in quote for this position, right? Your team is the one who is following you, your team is the one who believes in you, etc., right? So this is not the official position in the company. This is like a mental position. So
the role that you play.
Yes, exactly. So I will definitely very hardly differentiate those two.
However, I think there is a possibility that a good leader can be a good manager can be a good leader, but I would also say that it doesn't have to be that a good leader always has to be a good manager or that a good manager always has to be a good leader, right? So that's also the distinction that we need to add
it's
here.
Kind of being Scrum Master and product owner in the same time, or harder even.
That never works.
Yeah.
Jakub, what's your thought on this?
Well, I think that everywhere where I had a chance to work in terms of industry, companies, and so on, there was this, let's call it like issue thing with managers. Because you could see people who became managers, directors / doesn't matter, and they forgot about being leaders. They just focus on managerial stuff, let's call it. But in terms of not taking care of people, not leading people, but just, responsibilities, some paperwork, agreeing when it comes to holidays, and so on. And that this type 2, which I don't know why, but they notice this, that, okay, this is like a huge responsibility, because depending on my decisions, my way of how I speak with people, I can trigger better performance. I can help other to find a motivation. I can build the team, because that's the main idea of having a leader, right? To help create an environment for the team, for people to be better, generally, to do their job and to enjoy it and so on.
But
So,
shouldn't that be also the responsibility of the manager?
okay, yes, could be, but if you think about, okay, if I think about the differentiation about those two types, usually when I talk to people who say I cannot, the reply to to lack of motivation in their team is, "What can I do?" Right? Have you heard such reply? I tried. I talked with this person. What can I do? And the difference with those who really lead, they go further. It's not like, okay, this person is not motivated and I already tried. No, they're trying to find a way. They're trying to have a conversation. Lately, I had a chance to talk with my friend who is a PM. And a long story short, generally, the conclusion from the conversation was that in the place where he was leading the whole project and they were trying to solve extremely difficult situation with a customer, no one thought about just reaching out to the customer and start talking about the issue. Like sit in front of each other, say, okay, we really failed. What is important for you in this situation? We will tell you what we can do and so on. So on. Just have this really tough discussion. They were trying to figure out how to pitch solution to the customer, how to persuade the customer to this situation, to the solution of the situation. No one thought, okay, just reach out and try to have a conversation. I think those really leaders, they know that you just need to roll up your sleeves and have a conversation. And just, again, conversation. So that would be the difference, I would say. So yes, the manager should do this, but I think it's always the question about mindset. What do you treat us doing this?
Admitting failure is very hard thing, right? And this is not something what we are prepared to do, especially when you are, let's be honest, pushed into the managerial position. Because how it very often happens, right? You are in some place for some time already. You hit your, glass ceiling, and what you can do next. There is no like a very senior developer or senior developer or whatever else, right? There is a managerial position on top of it. So you go to be a manager without preparation for it. And this is completely different role.
Even very often, I met people from IT industry, and of course, the same situation as outside, who needed to manage their colleagues. And they said that's very difficult because I know those people, and they know my buttons, and they know how to use them. And sometimes when you need to be, sometimes as a manager, leader slash manager, you need to implement some decisions that are maybe not, the best, and no one in the team, they dream about it and so on. But you need to figure out how to implement that, right, properly.
Yeah.
That's your responsibility. And having friends in your team definitely could be quite challenging, because they will use every possible argument and your common experience against you in such situation. So this is a very difficult. This is definitely very difficult. Yes, you need to have tools. You need to know how to do it. There are some tools, and with proper preparation, proper training, you can deal with such situations.
That was also the rule. I don't know whether it's still the rule, but it was in the United States Army that when you've been promoted from a non-commanding officer to a commanding officer position, so sergeant, staff sergeant, or you're being now promoted to second lieutenant position, then you are being reassigned from your current platoon with whom you've been working while being staff sergeant, just because there might be attraction between people who are under your command. The U.S. Army thought it's just easier to be reassigned.
Wise
So,
decision.
potentially, but at the same time, if you are identified as a leader and people follow your example and people look up to you because of inspiration or any other reason, and then you are being promoted to the manager, like you still in that case I think can be in that group just because you are still being listened by the people. But there was a good episode of Friends, actually, if you remember the 90s TV series, where Chandler Bing got promoted to be the head of department. And people stopped liking him because he used to be their friend, Chandler Bing, but now he is Bossman Bing. And people just were not really happy about that.
In this situation, the whole dynamic in the team changed, right? And this is the moment where the whole team really changed, right? The position of the one person who is with us, let's say, right, at this point is not with us anymore, is him, not us, right? This changed everything. And dealing with that perception is very hard. And
Especially when you have your own aspirations to become a manager. And then you see
yes,
someone else is being
yeah,
promoted.
Okay,
yeah,
guys, but
definitely.
I remember when we discussed about this topic before we press record, we as well thought about like how to build this trust as a leader. So maybe we can maybe just for a few moments discuss this. So we know already what's the difference. That people they behave as a leaders, some as managers. What are the obstacles?
Some as dorks, but anyway.
But maybe like people generally. So maybe you have some ideas like how from all kind of perspective as a leader, as not a leader but just part
Mhm.
of a team. What comes to your mind?
When you become a manager, this is very tough situation for you as well. If when you become manager for the first time, right? Well, we finished last episode with that, being humble.
Not a know it all, and
Yeah,
just
exactly.
allow also, I guess, for a moment, let other people walk in your shoes. Like, there is this option of kind of giving people the autonomy, but I think it also greatly depends on the goals that you have for the business in general, because where as a leader you have various different leadership styles. Sometimes when it comes to management, you have the company strategy that you probably need to align yourself with.
Yeah,
Now, that company strategy might not necessarily be the one that you feel comfortable with following in the long
that's
run.
true.
Or
That's true. And
maybe even you can agree with it, but and you're aware that probably that's not something that your team is looking forward. So
As well.
yes, there is always pros and cons, right? So this is the difference with which we started this episode: being a leader, being a manager, right? So yes, I think you hit this point here, right? So leader is not official position, manager is, and behind this are the expectations from you, which are not necessarily be easy for you to do, right? And I'm not saying here to about the most hard one to fire someone, but how will you deal with the salary rises, how you will deal with bonuses, how you will deal with, for example, you have 5 people who want to go to conference and you have only 4 tickets, right?
That's true. But also, I would like to, bring maybe a controversial question, whether you agree with this or not. But there is this quote that people join companies because of opportunities, but they leave because of the managers. Right? And I was like
Mm.
thinking and wondering, what is your perception? What is your opinion about this statement?
Well, I think this it's maybe not always, but it is true, right? Of course, we leave companies very often because of something else. We want to grow, we want to change our position, we want to try something new, we want to go into different direction, etc., etc. Very often, this came with managerial style of the person who is above you, and it's not necessarily about this manager that he is or she is doing something bad, something wrong. There is no, as we call it, there is no chemistry between both of you. And this may be a good reason to look for something else, right? We spend a lot of time at work. If you look on our life, it is 1/3 of our day when we deal with people at work, right? And it is quite important to have the environment where you are happy to be.
One more thing is, I guess people are also leaving, like if you ask me for this, people are leaving the companies also because of the managers, from the point of view that the managers are leaving the company, they go somewhere else, and
Yeah,
people follow those managers, right? So that's
yeah,
also,
yeah,
we can look at this from this point of view.
Everything is possible, and I think as well, some people they just leave not because of managers, because of some other reason.
yeah,
Just could have as well a great manager. That happened to me. I had a great manager, but I decided to change something. But as well, I think that maybe sometimes people, because when I think about manager is just your, like, maybe not the one source of truth, but the point of contact for you. So everything that happens behind the curtain is focused in this one person. So maybe sometimes people they leave because of X that happens somewhere in the machinery behind this person, but they believe that this is the reason what they live in, because the person like cannot do anything more for this person, can just be transparent, is telling, sharing, and so on, but still people they will be blame this person. So I think like it's everything is possible, but this being humble, as you mentioned, and being transparent in sense of building a relationship with a person and saying what are your thoughts, feelings, and so on about what you're doing can help a lot. Of course, transparency doesn't mean that you need to share all the things from the company perspective, because some things you cannot. That's
yeah.
your position. You're obliged to translate this, to communicate somehow. So transparency doesn't mean like a crystal, but transparency means rather how do you feel with this. Even if you see that the person is not liking it, you're transparent with this. This is a quite challenging conversation that I'm having with you. I knew that you won't agree, but I would like to continue further because blah 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 blah. So I think those two things can help, because if you won't show them that you have your person, a real person, you have your feelings, emotions, and you notice those emotions, feelings with that, then you don't have anything that can build this chemistry, this any connection.
That is true. And the very important aspect of being a manager that you have, uh, I know how it sounds, but you have power, right? And you need to use this power wisely. What I mean by that, you need to remember that on the second side of your table, there is a person. Exactly what
and
you said, right?
I remember, and usually when I was teaching people, I was teaching techniques that were very tough with a subject, but very soft with a person. And this is something I believe that it's very important for managers, because for like the business, so you need to be very tough when it comes to business, but
Mm.
always with this sense of you dealing with a person. So you need to be soft with a person.
I think also there is this quote that, oh, how to translate that to English? Be merciful for the sinner, but don't give mercy to the sin. So I guess it's important to, yeah, like for example, stick to the facts, stick to the message being provided, not necessarily, blame the message or blame the messenger, as they say, right?
Hmm.
So that's also an important aspect of relations. And I'm glad, Kuba, what you mentioned about this transparency, that, you know, I hear this quite often that, oh, we need to be transparent in our communication. No, there are things that, however we are communicating, we should never affect the morale in a negative way. We should still, regardless whether we are leaders or managers, maintain the good spirit of people around us and just make sure that we all try our best. And of course, everyone will fail, but the only person who will not fail is the person that doesn't do anything.
I usually say that there's at least 1,000 ways to say something. Even at home, you can approach a partner and say, I hate when you do X, right? But probably you won't be successful in such relationship. Or you can just approach and say, hey, may I ask you kindly to do Y, X, and so on, so on. So you can change the way how you say something, but still the matter is the same. And I think this is about the transparency to take into consideration that you have this person, that this is a living creature, and you want to be as well effective with this person. So take the responsibility of your words, I would say, when it comes to transparency.
I like the statement living creature.
Living creature. Yeah, I probably I won't use this. Hey, living creature, I would like to ask you to. Yeah, no. I hope my partner doesn't hear that. My living creature doesn't hear that.
Mhm. And hopefully your manager creature doesn't hear it as well.
And you, living creature, guys, you don't hear that. Okay, so guys, living creatures. Maybe one of you can sum up this somehow.
Yeah, I think we should.
Mhm.
We should. So being a manager is not easy thing. You need to be prepared to be a manager because this is different role, even of being like on lead position, senior position. This is something else, and this is not something what you should reach because you need to be promoted. This is something what you should reach because you are ready to be a manager. This is my opinion.
Just one comment about that in terms of humble. If you became leader, manager, and you humble, then you know that still learning is something that you need to do for this position. So even if you're not prepared fully, it will be
Yes.
better. Being humble, I think this is the trigger to learn more and to ask questions and to find answers as well. So I think being humble can be the key to be a really good manager. A manager slash leader, of course.
And living creature.
And leaving exactly, indeed.
And
All
on
right.
that, I think we can close this episode. Once again, thank you so much for listening to our Last Week in IT podcast. If you like the episode, please be sure to like, share with your colleagues, maybe leave a comment. Feel
And with living
invited to have a,
creatures.
and
Share it
feel
with living
invited to have a conversation with us. We are always more than happy to discuss our topics in more details. Thank you so much for today, Pavel. Thank you, Kuba. Wishing you all a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay
Yeah.
healthy, stay happy.
and humble.
And
Take care. Bye.
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 And that's it for today. This was Last Week in IT. Thank you for listening and please join us for the next episode. Follow us on social media, subscribe and comment. If you agree, disagree, or just want to say hello, we are waiting for you. Stay tuned, stay IT.